Hello, brothers and sisters. Father Frank Pavone here, National Director of Priests for Life. Welcome to Priests for Life TV. Thank you for taking the time to watch because you're about to see another broadcast segment on this brand new internet pro-life television channel. We are going to bring you quality programming from the present as well as from the past. Live events, pre-taped events. You'll see homilies, you'll see interviews, you'll see talks at various pro-life gatherings, prayer vigils, commercials, music videos, a whole combination of inspirational and instructional material that we've put together over the years and that our team continues to put together. So I hope that you'll enjoy this broadcast segment that's about to begin and share it with others. Tell other people about Priests for Life TV. And share these videos with them so that they too can find the strength and the knowledge they need to be part of the pro-life movement. Enjoy now these broadcasts of Priests for Life TV.
Well, as I said, I'm Matt Britton, Chairman of the Board and General Counsel to 40 Days for Life. And 40 Days for Life was founded we're in our 11th year, but really Coalition for Life was the beginning of 40 Days for Life down in Bryan College Station when Planned Parenthood was going to open up an abortion clinic in one of the most conservative towns in Texas. And two men, David B. Wright and Sean Carney, decided they were going to try and stop that from happening and got people in the Coalition for Life to pray. And they did pray in front of that building almost every hour that it was open for 13 years. And that building closed down, and eventually we wound up buying the building. And we have two former abortionists now who have come to Christ who are working pro-life medicine in that building. And it's also our headquarters. And during that time, David and Sean decided that they were going to start 40 Days for Life, which was a ministry of the Coalition for Life. And we're in our 10th year. And what we do is we pray, fast, and do community outreach in about 600 cities in 47 countries throughout the world. We have over 300,000 volunteers at any given time. And this campaign was our largest Lent campaign ever. And combined, we have seen almost 100 clinics close, over 150 abortion workers leave, and almost 15,000 babies that we know of saved from abortion during 40 Days for Life campaigns. When people ask me what they can do, what the most effective thing they can do to save the unborn, and what they can do most to help, I say do something. Start. Begin. When you are driving down the street, there are little babies dying. There are mothers and fathers choosing to kill their little babies. And anything that we can do as a pro-life advocate is going to be helpful. And the first way to do it is to pray. This battle will be won on our knees. It will be fought in the courts, and it should be. It will be fought in the legislatures, and it should be. But there will be new judges. There will be new laws. But God is eternal, and this battle will be fought on our knees. So the very first thing to do is pray. And the second thing to do is find someone in your local community. If it's not 40 Days for Life, that's the power of 40 Days for Life. We pray and fast and counsel on our local street corners in our town so that abortion ends in the cities and states and throughout the country and throughout the world. Find something local, your local pro-life pregnancy center. You don't have to have great ideas or great beginnings. Do something small. But the main thing is to get out there and pray. And the last thing I say is to be pro-life, you have to talk about pro-life. You can't keep your feelings to yourself, because when you get it out there and other people, your friends, know that you're pro-life, then they will be empowered to say, great, I'm not alone. Priests for Life and Father Frank are fantastic. In fact, I would go so far as to say that Father Frank is the most important, the most significant pro-life leader in America today. Not just because of his longevity, but because what he's doing and how he is doing it. Father Frank is getting out there. He is opposing no one, and he is empowering everyone. He is for things. He is for life, and he is for saving people. 40 Days for Life, I don't even know how many times, has collaborated with Father Pavone, as well as Priests for Life throughout the country. I was just with him in Oakland and San Francisco at the Walk for Life. And he's everywhere. And I think that the most important thing about Father Pavone is how he does it, that his message is delivered with clarity. It speaks to everyone. He speaks on the academic level, on the legal level, but he also speaks on the human level, and that's what it's all about. And the last thing I'll say why Father Pavone and Priests for Life is so important is that because prayer will win this battle, we need clerics. We need priests and pastors. We need churches entering in, and that's what Father Pavone does. He, with his Roman collar and with the magisterium and the priesthood behind him, brings so many of the clergy and tells people, pray. And you know, when a priest tells you to pray, you should pray. Thank you.
Brothers and sisters, some years ago, some children in Milwaukee were playing on a bridge, and a call came into the local police department saying that these children were throwing things off the bridge. So the local police went to investigate. And when they asked the children what they were throwing over the bridge, they said, "Little people." And they showed the police officer little containers with children in them. These children had found aborted babies in the dumpster of a nearby abortion clinic. And in the book of Revelation, in chapter 3, verse 21, we read, "To the one who gains the victory, I will give the right to sit with me on my throne." What is the destiny of the human person? What is the destiny of human beings in the plan of God? We proclaim to the world that the destiny of human beings is not simply to gather around the throne, not simply to fall down before the throne. Christ says we will sit with him on his throne. And if our destiny is to be with Christ in the heights of heaven, we cannot ignore it when human beings are being thrown in the garbage by abortion. The Christian cannot ignore it. And yet there is nothing, my friends, of all the many things that we are all concerned about that destroy and degrade human life and dignity, there's nothing that takes more human life than abortion. No crime, no disease, no natural disaster, no war, no act of terrorism, nothing is claiming more victims in our nation alone. Just by surgical abortion, some 4,000 children are killed every single day. Nothing takes more life than this. And yet when we look at this immense tragedy, we do not tremble in fear and say, "Oh, how are we going to overcome such a Holocaust? How are we going to stop this power of death and destruction?" No, you and I are disciples of the one who said, "I hold the keys of death and hell." Yes, we have to look this evil in the face, but we look at it in the face as Christians who are standing up and declaring to this culture of death, "Your kingdom has been overturned. Your kingdom has been robbed of its power. In the name of Christ, we say to you, be gone. You have no more place here. You have no more authority over the human family." Our God is in the business of destroying death, and so must we be.
Priests for Life Vice Chairman Anthony DeStefano has written another compelling book. This time, he probes the dark thinking of atheists and counteracts it with a good dose of wisdom and humor. The book is called Inside the Atheist's Mind: Unmasking the Religion of Those Who Say There Is No God. In our day, there is a rise in militant atheism, and these people attack us and our faith. We have to equip ourselves and our families and our churches to counteract their empty arguments. Moreover, militant atheists are deeply entwined with the culture of death. Whether abortion, euthanasia, infanticide, or other types of violence, their motto is, "I have come that you have death, and I have it more abundantly." Arm yourself with answers to today's militant atheism in the book Inside the Atheist's Mind. Order it online at our store, prolifeproducts.org or give us a call at 321-500-1000. Again, go to our online store, prolifeproducts.org, or give us a call at 321-500-1000 to order Inside the Atheist's Mind. Thank you.
In memory of Jane Martin Feely. Father Frank Pavone is the National Director of Priests for Life and the National Pastoral Director of the Silent No More Awareness Campaign and of Rachel's Vineyard. He has served full-time in pro-life leadership since 1993. Please give a warm welcome to Father Frank Pavone.
Thank you.
Father, would you like to pray this morning?
Okay, thanks. It's a joy to be here, and we are going to triple, quadruple, in fact, multiply by at least 100 our audience tonight, because right now we are all on Facebook Live, and I want you to say hi to pro-life people around the country and around the world. Now bear with me while I position this here and let our audience listen to these remarks. Okay. Now on your tables I have left for you a few little items, and one of them pertains to what I'm doing here right now. It says stay connected with Father Frank. Social media platforms, some of the ones that we at Priests for Life have, and you will see on there my Facebook page, facebook.com/Father Frank Pavone. And that's where you'll be able to see and share later on the remarks that I will have for you here tonight. So look forward. I always look forward as I travel the country and the world full-time proclaiming the pro-life message to groups just like you. I always say to them that I don't only want to be present for your event tonight and give you some encouragement in what you are doing, but I want this to be the beginning of a long-term collaborative relationship, because brothers and sisters, we are all in this movement together, different people doing different facets of the work that needs to be done to end abortion. This is the #1 greatest human rights movement of our times. And in fact, our goal is not simply to reduce the numbers of abortion, not simply to bear witness against abortion. You and I are united for one goal, and it is a goal we will reach, and that is to end abortion. That's what we're doing. And I'm delighted to be with you here tonight. You know, this is not the first time our paths have crossed in terms of mother and unborn baby care. As a matter of fact, your founder, Mike Mike O'Day, and his wife Peggy, I've known Mike for some 25 years. We first met back in the mid-90s at a Human Life International conference when I just first started traveling around full-time doing this work, and we've been in contact ever since, see each other at different conferences and events, and I've long admired and rejoiced in the work that God is doing through him, a great fruit of that work, which we see right before our eyes here tonight. So thank you, Mike and Peggy. God bless you. I've lost count a long time ago at how many hundreds of events like this I've spoken at pregnancy centers all around the country. So when I say this, I say it with that view of experience in mind, that Nancy and Christina and your whole team, you are doing a great job. You are doing it well. You are doing it right. Keep on the path that you are on. And all of you who support this work, I can tell you, the way that you have this structured, I've been over at the center, not just today, but I was over there again a couple of years ago, and you've got this organized well. You're on the right track for many different reasons, some of which I will articulate for you here tonight. I want to bring you the greetings of our whole team at Priests for Life. Now, many of you were telling me earlier before the dinner began that you follow our work very closely and you're in contact with us, and I appreciate that. And if you're not in contact with us or want to be deeper in contact with us, I've also left you some yellow cards. So as I'm making my remarks tonight, if you have thoughts, questions, comments that you want to leave me, things you want to get more information about, use that yellow card if you would. Fill it out, and then I will take them home this evening and continue our collaboration and communication. But we have a whole team of ministries. It's a family of ministries. We have, for example, and I know that your clientele at Mother and Unborn Baby Care are primarily African Americans, and we have on our team full-time evangelist Alveda King, niece of Martin Luther King Jr., and she has been working with me since 1999. And she says the civil rights movement of today is the pro-life movement. Because she says, just as my Uncle ML, as she calls him, advocated for the equal protection under the law of blacks, so today we are advocating for equal protection under the law for children in the womb. The philosophy, the principles, the cause itself are identical. What is different is the group of people who are being oppressed. And anytime any human being is being oppressed or denied equality, brothers and sisters, movements arise. Movements arise not because somebody stands up from some high place to call them together, but rather because the human heart, the human conscience, the human soul is made in such a way that we understand when one of our brothers and sisters is in fact being oppressed, is in fact in danger, there is only one appropriate human response, and that is to speak up for that person, to act up, to rally, and to protect and restore the rights of those individuals. And today, there is no group, search high and low, far and wide, there is no group of human beings more sorely oppressed than the children in their mother's wombs. That's why we're here tonight. So I bring you the greetings of Alveda King tonight. She knows I'm here. I'll be with her next week at our headquarters. And she sends you her prayerful greetings. Janet Morana of Silent No More, she's our executive director. I'll be saying more about Silent No More in a little bit. The priests that work with us full-time, Brian Kemper, who heads up our youth outreach, Teresa and Kevin Burke, who founded Rachel's Vineyard, the largest ministry in the world for healing after abortion. That is part of our work as well. And the wife of pro-life hero Congressman Chris Smith works with us full-time, Marie Smith, and she works with us on our international outreach at the United Nations and working with legislators in other countries around the world as they too strive to protect the unborn children of their nations. All of these people working together are keeping you here tonight, not only in their thoughts and prayers, but all of us together want to work with you throughout the year to make your work even more successful. Now, brothers and sisters, as we think about that, as we see the beautiful example we saw tonight of that one life saved, and let's not forget that if all the effort of all the organizations, if all the resources and all the time and all the energy of the pro-life movement from the beginning to the end were all focused just on saving one single human life, it would be more than worth it. That's what we mean when we say the inestimable value of a human life. Even if all those efforts were focused on just saving one life and those efforts failed, it would still be more than worth it to have made those efforts. And yet we see victories every single day. We see lives being saved, so many we can't even keep count of them all. We see abortion facilities closing. You know, when I started out with Priests for Life in the early to mid-90s, there were a couple of thousand abortion facilities in this country. There are now approximately 750. And a big part of the reason is that entities like mother and unborn baby care, pregnancy centers of all different sizes, shapes, and colors have arisen in communities large and small across this nation, have scraped together whatever resources they could find, some of them working on pennies. But again, they were motivated by the basic human instinct that we must protect our children. And they have come together now in such a way that the pregnancy centers of America outnumber the abortion clinics by 5 to 1. One of the very, very smart things that Mother and Unborn Baby Care has done is to affiliate with Heartbeat International, the international network of pregnancy centers, which maintains standards of care and specialized training and a networking resource across the globe. And just last week, I was, as I always am each year, a speaker and participant at their international conference. It was held out in Anaheim, California this year. And I stood before the couple of thousand people, pregnancy center directors, staff, volunteers, people just like here in this room who are running Mother and Unborn Baby Care, and brothers and sisters. These people are as energized, as encouraged as ever before, more united than ever before. This movement is going forward, and we are succeeding. They came together just last week and went back to their communities, re-energized. We also have our friends at NIFLA, and I know that MAUBC is a member of NIFLA, the National Institute of Family and Life Advocates. That's another very smart move. And my good friend and colleague Tom Glessner is the founder and president of that organization. And I'm going to say a little bit more about them in a minute too, as I talk about the battle that we're engaged in. We are, brothers and sisters, doing the most important work on earth as we are saving these babies. Because I need you to understand something here tonight as you continue to support this work and as you redouble that support tonight. It would be marvelous if we were having this banquet tonight in a nation that protected its unborn children by law. Because if the nation protected its unborn children by law, we would still have pregnant mothers who get afraid. And we would still have moms who need to overcome the fear of being a mom, and dads that need to overcome the fear of being a dad, and people who need resources to journey through that rather scary experience of pregnancy. You know, as you said tonight, your clients know you as Problem Pregnancy Center. And that's a very clever way of presenting yourself to the public, because a person who is abortion-minded, abortion-vulnerable, in other words, either set on having an abortion, maybe they already have the appointment, or is living in those circumstances where the winds are blowing and the pressure is mounting in such a way that is pushing her towards an abortion, making her vulnerable for that. In their mind, pregnancy and problem are synonymous. And this is why they'll look at that sign and they'll say, yeah, that's where I need to go. Maybe they'll be able to help me. But let's understand something. Even for the person that wants to be pregnant and rejoices in it, every pregnancy presents a crisis in the original sense of that word. The word crisis means a judgment, a verdict, a fork in the road. You can only go one way or you're going to go the other, and there are serious consequences both ways. Every pregnancy presents a challenge of a proportion that has not been met yet by that person in their lives, because they have a choice now to either grow and stretch beyond what they have ever experienced, reorient the center of gravity of their lives, introduce and welcome another person into their lives who is now the center of everything. And this requires a maturing, this requires a changing, this requires a shedding of a lot of attachments and patterns of life that you held onto before. This requires a monumental change, and it's scary. Or, the other fork in the road, revert back into selfishness and possibly commit an act that will scar you for the rest of your life by rejecting that opportunity to grow. Every pregnancy is a challenge, crisis, if you will, that demands people to rally around and help and provide that support that we're providing here. If we were to be doing this, therefore, in a nation where these children in the womb were protected and where there were 0 abortion clinics, this work would be worthy of every penny of support and moment of time that you give to it. But tonight, we find ourselves sitting here in a very different situation. Because on top of the innate value of helping a pregnant mother to be a mother, helping a family to welcome a child, on top of the value to that, that's already there, we are living in the middle of a Holocaust. With absolutely no exaggeration to say that. We are living in the middle of a situation where nothing in human history has ever taken more lives or continues to take more lives than an act of violence which is covered up and presented as freedom, protected by law, and in fact continues to wreak havoc and devastation on our nation like we haven't even begun to be able to measure. And it is taking away from the most vulnerable, the most defenseless children, the most fundamental right that they have. You know, let's think about what's going on here. There are people who are deprived of many different rights for many different reasons in many different situations. And any kind of injustice must be opposed. And people organize all kinds of movements for social justice to help people have equal employment opportunities, for example, or efforts to reduce and eliminate all kinds of prejudice and racism, any kind of inequalities in the workplace. I mean, we can go on and list the various legitimate actions for justice that take place in our country and in our world. But brothers and sisters, when the thing that is being denied a person is their life itself, isn't it clear that everything else goes with that? You know, I'm just amazed at how people can look at you and me and look at the work we do and say, oh, well, they're only concerned about that one issue over there, abortion. We're only concerned about one issue? Let me ask you something. What kind of education are you providing for the children that have been aborted? Well, what type of education plan are they benefiting from? Hell, you want to talk about health care? I want to ask every political leader in this country who's pro-choice, but walking around talking about how great their health care plan is, how the children who have been aborted benefit from that health care. I haven't heard an explanation of it yet. Oh, and I'm going to protect you from terrorism. Oh, really? How well did you do for the babies that were killed by abortion? In other words, if you take away protection of a child's life while they are still in the womb, you have taken away their education, you have taken away their health care, you've taken away their housing, you've taken away their protection from terrorism, you've taken away their right to immigrate, you have taken away their right to food, clothing, and shelter, you have taken away everything. You've taken away the possibility of them possessing or enjoying every other human right. That is one of the reasons why this is the most fundamental and important work going on the planet Earth today, and why we need to recommit ourselves to it tonight, and why we need to challenge our brothers and sisters who might say to us, oh yes, you people, you're those single issue people, you're those pro-life fanatics. Oh really? Take away life. What do you have? What do you have left? This is not just one issue. This is the heart and the core and the foundation of every issue. Why do we care for people who are poor? Oh, because they have a right to food, clothing, and shelter. Well, why do they have a right to those things? Well, because they have a right to live. Why do we care about unemployment? Well, because people have a right to work. Why? Because they have a right to make a living. Why? Because they have a right to live. If you ask a question of why any issue is an issue to begin with, you will come back to the right to life. It is the core of every issue. And let's make something clear. If we don't get this right as a nation, we're not going to get anything else right. You cannot build a nation that learns how to feed its hungry when you don't know how to feed your own child hungry in your womb. You will not be a nation that learns how to protect even the guilty if you're working to eliminate capital punishment when you don't know how to protect the innocent. You will not create peace between nations if you cannot have peace between a mother and her own child. And you will not be able to welcome immigrants across the border of your nation if you can't welcome children across the border of the womb. Any effort for social justice that stands on a platform that also permits abortion is building on quicksand. It will fail. And it deserves to fail. Because we're missing the heart and the core of every issue. Now, brothers and sisters, there's more to it than this. Not only are we facing a situation where these children have been deprived of the most basic right that there is, but we're in a real war. It's a real war. Because think for a moment of what... You saw the beauty, and you see the beauty, and you know the beauty of a life that's saved. Right? I want you to reflect with me for a moment on what we're saving them from. First of all, the folks in our country who are avidly promoting abortion, those who are working on the mirror opposite side of this issue, the committed core I'm not talking about the clients who come into the center, because they're ambivalent, they're confused, they don't really want to do what they are doing if they make an abortion appointment. They really don't. It's the last thing they want to do. Now, don't ever think that the slogans of the other side have any semblance to reality when they talk about freedom of choice. You know, we point out to them, women don't get abortions because of freedom of choice. They get them because they feel they have no freedom and no choice. They feel trapped, abandoned, desperate, afraid. Sadly, they feel there's nobody to turn to except the abortionists. We're the ones coming along and telling them they have freedom and they have choice. But brothers and sisters, it's worse. Yes. But it's worse than that. Within, Nancy, you were telling me earlier today, and Christina, within 5 to 10 miles of the Problem Pregnancy Center, there are some 5 different killing centers, abortion facilities. So even though the pregnancy centers nationwide outnumber the abortion clinics 5 to 1, there are certain areas of our country that are dense with abortion facilities, and this is one of them. 5 killing centers. Do you know what happens in these centers? I can talk to you from experience because we at Priests for Life, one of the ministries that we undertake is to minister to ex-abortionists. We minister to people who have spent years, even decades, professionally killing babies. You don't want to know what goes on at these places, brothers and sisters. This is not, first of all, it's not medicine. Because medicine helps the body to do what it's supposed to do, but is having trouble doing. Right? A medical procedure will assist it. Abortion is exactly the opposite. It doesn't help the body do what it's trying to do, but is having trouble doing. It's stopping the body from doing what it is supposed to be doing, and is doing very well. Because this is the opposite of medicine. There's no medical benefit to abortion. And the first requirement of doing a medical procedure is that there be some medical benefit, and that there not be harm. But brothers and sisters, abortion does not qualify even to be considered as or called medicine. But beyond that, the way in which it's being carried out in these places is absolutely unspeakable. For decades now, I've been working in conjunction with various other groups who have been shining a spotlight on what goes on inside these abortion facilities. And if anybody thinks that legal means safe, think again, not only because of the inherent lack of safety of the procedure itself, because it's so totally unnatural, but because of the way it's being carried out. Few anecdotal examples. In abortion facilities nationwide, you will routinely have high school students administering anesthesia. You will have doctors claiming to be doctors who did not spend one day in medical school. I helped one woman come out of the abortion industry who ran 6 clinics at the same time, presented herself as Dr. Davis, and admitted to me after she came out she hadn't spent a single day in medical school. Expired medications are routine. People not trained in the things that they are doing. Malpractice that is absolutely rampant. I'm not telling you that these are horror stories that we have found here or there. Believe me tonight when I tell you, this is the norm in abortion clinics. The norm. The people who are doing this are deeply, deeply damaged themselves. They are the lowest rung of the ladder. Those who do have a medical degree, not all of them do, who claim to, but those that do, we are talking about the bottom of the barrel, the lowest rung of the medical profession. And brothers and sisters, they have no scruples. If your conscience has been so completely twisted that you can reach in with your own hands into a woman's body and tear out limb from limb a living human being, if your conscience has become so darkened that you can do that, you're going to be doing a lot of other evil things as well. As I always say, you cannot practice vice virtuously. And that's why in these abortion clinics, we're closing a lot of them. I told you, 81% of the abortion facilities have closed over the last 25 years. And one of the big reasons is not only the growth of the pregnancy centers. Here's the other reason. We are applying state by state, and both enacting and enforcing laws that are already on the books that prohibit the kind of malpractice, the kind of deception, the kind of money laundering and OSHA violations and all kinds of other things going on in these clinics that are already against the law. If we shine a light on those activities, you can close most of these places down without even abortion being made illegal. And people don't realize the extremism of the abortion industry either. We have phone calls, you can listen to them on our Priest for Life website. We made them very recently to show people, as Congress was voting recently on the Pain-Capable Unborn Child Protection Act to protect babies from 20 weeks forward, and within the 5 to 10 mile radius of MAU, BC, you've got facilities performing abortions up to 24 weeks. You have, we made calls into legal abortion facilities across the nation, including in Michigan. And we had our caller pose as a young woman, far advanced in pregnancy, healthy mother carrying a healthy baby. You will hear phone calls in which she said to the abortion facility that she was 32 weeks pregnant, that she was healthy, that her baby was healthy, and in that one phone call, she was told, you can come in next week for your abortion. Perfectly legal activity in the United States of America. Yes, state by state, you'll have different laws on the books drawing the limit at different places, and clinic by clinic, they'll draw their own lines at certain places. But there is no federal law prohibiting what I just mentioned and what you can hear taking place in these phone calls. Healthy baby, healthy mother, 32 weeks of pregnancy and beyond. We have third trimester abortions taking place in this country today and tomorrow. Now, many of our friends, even who consider themselves pro-choice, will join with us in bringing an end to that madness. Because most people, your friends, your relatives, your coworkers who say that they're pro-choice, ask them what they really mean by that. Use that example. Okay, my friend, you're pro-choice. So let me ask you one simple question. A woman who's 32 weeks pregnant, healthy mother, healthy baby, should she be allowed to abort that child or not? And when, not if, but when they say no, and then say, well, but it's happening, will you help us change that? And we can rally people who are even pro-choice to get some progress on our effort to end abortion. When an abortion occurs, what you are also saving mothers from is a lifetime of devastation. And that's where our Silent No More campaign comes in. I ask you, brothers and sisters, to check out silentnomore.com as you continue to advocate for moms and families and babies and dads. Because when you listen to the testimonies of those who've done this, and they are silent no more, you will hear the devastation. The devastation to their self-esteem, to their relationships, to their ability to have sexual intimacy, to their ability to make decisions, to their marriages, to their careers. You'll see the devastation in living color and many tears. But it's not only to the mom, to the dad as well. Fathers losing their fatherhood, losing their manhood, feeling not only betrayed by themselves if they were the ones consenting to the abortion, and sometimes the father is more guilty of the abortion than the mother, but also on the other side of the coin, trying to save the life of their own child and not being able to, because the law gives them no say. That is not a pleasant experience for any man, to be made to feel that way. We have fathers who are in deep need of healing all over this country, but brothers and sisters, in an initiative that we call the Shockwaves, understand that you are also saving the entire family from devastation. Have you given thought to the pain, the grief of grandparents all over our country who, as 3,300 children are being aborted every single day, for each of those children, we're talking about 4 grandparents who are losing a grandchild, and either consenting to it, about which they're going to repent and grieve later, or not consenting to it, in which case they're mourning a child they couldn't save. What about the siblings? What does an abortion do to a brother, a sister of that aborted child, who realizes at some point, yes, Mommy killed my brother, Daddy killed my sister? What does that do to a child? Well, we're starting to learn, because they're speaking out more and more. Friends who bring friends to the abortion facility, they grieve too. They have a lifelong wound as well. They need healing also. All of this, let me just point out to you, because I'm going to wrap up now. We have a table in the back with some books, and if the books run out, which I think they will, you can order these books just via those yellow cards that I've given you. What I'm just talking about now is the subject of our latest book, Shockwaves. And the abortion's wider circle of victims. Our executive director, Janet Moreno, co-founder of Silent No More, just wrote this book. I also have there Abolishing Abortion, Strategy for the Pro-Life Movement. This is a manifesto for the pro-life movement, a book of mine that came out just a couple of years ago. I know there are some clergy here in the room, and another thing you may want to bring back to your parish priest, a book called Proclaiming the Message of Life, the Sunday readings for the entire year, for all 3 cycles of the liturgy, for each and every set of Sunday readings, how to preach the pro-life message contained in this book, both for the preacher and for those of us who listen to the readings that want to draw some good pro-life lessons. And finally, a daily devotional, 1 minute each day, a little reflection and scripture and prayer for pro-life, called Pro-Life Reflections for Every Day. These books are on that table, and again, if they run out, just ask me for them on those yellow cards. My friends, let Let me sum it up this way. There's no work more important than this. We are winning. And thanks to what you're doing, we will see the end of abortion. We want to join hands with you in making that happen. Let's do so together from this night forward. And let's do it in the light of the faith we have as we celebrate, as we continue to celebrate Easter. Jesus Christ is risen, and that means he has conquered not only his death, he has conquered the entire kingdom of death. Which means we're not just working for victory, we are working from victory. Victory is where we start. And we start there tonight. God bless you and thank you for having me. Thank you very much. Okay.
Welcome. It's another edition of the Catholic View for Women, where we give you news and views from a truly Catholic perspective. I'm Teresa Tomeo, happy to be back with you, along with my co-hosts, Astrid Bennett Gutierrez and Janet Morana. And this is quite a topic we're going to discuss. And certainly people hear a lot about this in the culture, and especially with the whole very sad story of Bruce Jenner and himself as Caitlyn Jenner. A case of mistaken identity. This is another idea, actually, that Janet and I, Astrid, and I know we discussed this with you as well in planning the shows, another idea that came from that amazing conference that Janet and I both attended in the Archdiocese of Detroit that was put on by the Courage Ministry. And the last few episodes, if you're a regular viewer of EWTN's Catholic View for Women, you know we've been covering some pretty sensitive topics and some topics that may require some viewer discretion. So again, this is another little disclaimer. If you have young people in the room, especially children, that you might want to wait another time, DVR us right now or come back and watch us maybe on Friday mornings at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time. A case of mistaken identity is about this push that we're seeing in the culture where people can supposedly, which is totally false and just so sad that they're misguiding people this way, that they can actually change their identity as male and female. And it's off the charts now in terms of what's happening, and we don't realize how we have been sold a bill of goods. And all of this really is a fallout of the so-called sexual revolution.
Absolutely, and one of the lies of the sexual revolution is basically that there's no difference between men and women, and it's interchangeable. It's not a big deal. So basically, we're playing God. You know, God made a mistake. You know, and which is really absurd. And now we're seeing with studies, even Johns Hopkins University, saying that when people undergo these surgeries to have sex change, in reality, they actually come out worse. The suicide rate actually increases after the surgery. So it's a myth that this is helpful to people. It's a lie, and young people are being indoctrinated in the state where I live, California. It's tremendous, the pressure there is to accept these ideologies. And now we even have a bathroom bill where they are trying to push this more and more, that that they're gender neutral. If a boy thinks he's a girl, he should be allowed to go into a women's restroom. A man thinks he's a woman, he should be allowed to go into the women's restroom. And it's so dangerous, and their parents are up in arms. I mean, not only California, I know Ohio, Brian Kemper with Priests for Life, he's also, fighting that. And it's
he had to go to the school
sad.
board meeting where the school where his children go, because they were going to try to neutralize the bathrooms there. And he kind of got all the parents stirred up and went to the school board meeting and spoke out against that. Because, he said, what am I going to have to do? Pull my children out of school because I don't want them exposed to this.
Yes.
But I also think this is all a fallout of, like you said at the beginning, Teresa, the whole Bruce Jenner / Caitlyn Jenner
And
thing.
the whole sexual revolution.
Because, the media basically glorified Bruce Jenner when he switched over. I mean, they would.
But he didn't even really. This is the other thing that most people don't know. He did not have a sex change operation.
No, he did not.
And he basically is just quote unquote identifying as a woman. He basically is dressing up as a woman, and he may be taking some hormones. But even if he went ahead and had the so-called reassignment surgery, it would not change his DNA. And as I wrote in a column when that story first broke, in my column for Our Sunday Visitor, I said, this poor man doesn't need accolades and awards. He needs guidance and prayers.
And see, that's the sad thing, Teresa, is that he was given so many awards, and continues to be honored.
To affirm and celebrate what he did.
He was also named one of the Women of the Year by Glamour magazine.
So he's better at being a woman than women are. I mean, it's something so absurd.
That's
but
ridiculous.
Think about the confusion. Think about the confusion, the confusing message that says to women, to men. It's just, I can't even imagine raising children right now in this culture.
And it's not novel. It's not novel, actually. I grew up in the Hispanic community, which is socially conservative. I mean, people identify as socially conservative, family-oriented, traditional. But I grew up seeing images on TV of transvestites doing, imitating different artists, a man imitating a woman singer. I saw people in the news that had, you couldn't really tell what gender they were. So it was something that I grew up seeing. And
so was it a form of entertainment then in the Hispanic community?
So we were toying with it. It was just something that you didn't want a child that was transgender, but you were okay seeing it on TV, kind of like entertainment.
Right,
so
entertainment.
You toy with these ideas, and then they're here in your backyard, and you realize how damaging they are, that it's not helpful to affirm these behaviors, because in fact you are destroying the person.
There's more and more movies actually coming out that where people are doing this whole identity, this case of mistaken identity, and the movies and the programs are made to endorse what they're doing.
Yeah. Well, I also found it very upsetting too when everything broke about Bruce Jenner. If you looked on Facebook and people commenting, so many people. And these are people who are like my Facebook friends or Catholics and stuff, and they're all commenting like, "Oh, we're so happy for him. Oh, we're so glad he's at peace now. We're so glad he's found his true identity."
They're calling him she and he.
Yeah, they're calling him she. He's still a he, and I'm like, this is so sad that. People. If I think if we were to take a poll of people going out of church on Sunday, some people would say, "Oh, we're so glad that she's finally Caitlin is who she is, who she really is meant to be." I also go out with deep feelings for the children and his family. I mean, does he get a Mother's Day card or a Father's Day card now? I know that sounds like funny, but it's not. It's sad. I mean, this is their father, and now he's dressed like a woman. So his mom, dad, what are you now to us?
But again, I think it's important to understand in terms of the propaganda we've been sold. A lot of people don't even realize it, and whether it's abortion, whether it's so-called same-sex marriage, whether it's the pill, birth control, all these things, how we have been just desensitized and brainwashed in terms of where this comes from. So we sat down with Deacon Patrick Lampert, who's also an MD, and he's a deacon here in the Diocese of Birmingham, and he has a big, big heart for informing people on the background of what led to this, and he's very interested in this topic because of his work as an MD. He happens to be a plastic surgeon, and he's seeing more and more plastic surgeons engaging in surgery that is unethical in terms of going along with quote unquote trying to change people from male to female or vice versa. So let's listen to see what he had to say.
It began with the divorcing of a central aspect of our human nature, with our sexual faculty, and the divorcing of the two aspects of that, and which involves a huge redefinition of the human person. And now that's continuing, and its effects on family life, and certainly, but now with transgender, it's a redefinition of the human person that completely divorces them from really their very nature, and that's a very diabolical thing. I think the people who are promoting this aren't really sure who they're working for. I sometimes wonder if they know who they're actually working for in this advocacy that they're pushing for, but it creates such tremendous uncertainty about relationships, about even who you are. How can we know who you are? That we can no longer look at someone and say that I understand who they are. In a very fundamental way, we can't even say that anymore. When you embrace transgender, you're embracing an idea of the human person as being something that's disembodied and only defined by their personal will. And that's all that's, and that's a very frightening idea. The transgender condition is really a spectrum of expressions transgender can be an entirely private and secret obsessive thought that intrudes into their life, that somewhere in the depth of their heart they think of themselves as the other sex, and it may be just that. It may just be kept as that in their life, that it's their secret. It may lead to a compulsive behavior that only they know about, and the associated isolation and shame that goes with that. And then it can progress to the point of creating a persona, as Bruce Jenner has done, a whole another person with a different name, a different manner of speaking, presenting themselves to the public, because it's driven by this obsessive thought that they are the other sex. So he hasn't gone the full transitioning, but still wishes to live as a woman. Well, it's really important always to be mindful of the fact that you are met with a person who has a profound interior wound. And it is the case, and I have this as my experience as a plastic and reconstructive surgeon, that there are some wounds that are never gotten over in the person's lifetime. So the very first thing that you always have to be mindful of is that you have a wounded person there, and they deserve your help and your love and your encouragement in any way that you can. How far that will meet with what the world would call success, that's an open question, but it doesn't change the fact that we are obliged by virtue of our lives, our Christian lives, to first of all reach out and help, and then perhaps we can find a way that they can get their message out, as the world will hear it. But I think that's the most important thing, is to see the individual who is transgender as someone deserving of your love and your support and your care, always remembering that they have a wound, as we all do, and that's what we do as friends. What we do as friends is we allow one another into our lives, and we help one another, support one another on our walk to eternity. The most important thing is that nobody is served by lying to them. You cannot claim to be offering charity to someone if you're not offering them truth. Now, people will be more or less prepared to hear the truth depending on where in their life they are and how far along that life they are. But it is a fact that persons who are transgender have a very high risk of self-harm and suicide. And to imagine that you are helping them by allowing them or supporting them to continue in that falsehood is a profound disservice to them. It's a disservice to their human dignity to support a lie. That's not charity at all. So we're obliged to offer the truth, but we also have to offer the truth in love. Right? Love without the truth is not love at all. Right? So we have to find charitable ways to keep people pointed in the direction of truth. And the truth is that transgendered persons who are not very strongly supported in their spiritual life in addressing the particular spiritual wound they have a 40% likelihood of suicide and other self-injury. So you're not serving them by ignoring that fact. Well, there's a wider war being waged against the moral life in the practice of medicine, and the practice of medicine is becoming more and more centralized and brought under the control of the government. And certainly the government can exercise all kinds of prerogatives about even allowing you to be licensed if you don't offer the services that the government deems people are entitled to. So entitlements with regard to transgendered persons will include psychiatric services, surgical services, even reproductive services, as we talked about in the talk, that this idea of a right to a person, a right to a child, that you're a transgendered person who's presenting as a woman and that you now have a right to a child. You can imagine that there will be a lot of pressure placed on people who do, fertility, infertility care and what have you, that those services will be offered on pain of losing your license. I fully expect that to happen. Yes, I do.
That's a look at reality, I think, what we're facing right now because of the culture.
And look what he said. I mean, just like, with the HHS mandate, as we all know, both EWTN, Priests for Life, so many groups are in a fight against the Obama administration not to provide contraceptive pills an abortion because of the mandate. Well, what he's saying there is that mandate could then extend eventually to forcing doctors that you have to provide the surgery if someone wants to change sex. So for him, who's a plastic surgeon, I remember he told us, Teresa, I would have to then give up my practice.
Yeah, he would retire.
He said I'd have to retire before I would be even getting
because
into that situation.
He says what we'd be putting as a plastic surgeon, he said the doctors would be putting people in harm's way.
That's right. He said because he knew, he said, I know the danger that I'm putting them in because they need to be helped. We heard he said 40% of the people
40%
who go through this surgery end up, committing suicide. I mean, this is a huge amount. But not only that, he knows as a deacon, as a faithful son of the church, that this is against God's will.
And the other point that there's so many good points that he made in that segment, but he talked about the wider war being waged, and I know he was referring to the medical, the world of of medicine and whatnot. But there is a wider war being waged, and it's an attack on God, as you said in the beginning, Astrid, because this goes back to exactly who we are, created in the image and likeness of God, male and female. And he said, I wonder who those people realize whom they're working for. And I thought that was a very, very important point that he made. Well, so much to talk about. We have to take a break, but we want to remind you that we're talking about a case of mistaken identity. More information that we gleaned from an amazing conference that was held in my archdiocese, the Archdiocese of Detroit. And it was put on by the AOD and, of course, the Courage Ministry. And Deacon Patrick Lappert, who's an MD, a plastic surgeon, who works right here in the Diocese of Birmingham, was one of the fantastic speakers. And he sat down to talk to us about this issue regarding a case of mistaken identity. We'll talk more about this issue when we come back. Remember, viewer discretion is advised. We do appreciate you staying tuned to the Catholic View for Women. We'll be right back. Thanks so much for tuning in to the Catholic View for Women. I'm Teresa Tomeo, along with my co-hosts, Astrid Bennett Gutierrez and Janet Marana. And before we get back to our topic of a case of mistaken identity, we do want to say thanks to those of the team that work behind the scenes with us, including our wonderful pastoral director, Father Frank Pavone. He really helps us address these very sensitive issues that we're talking about. And we also have, of course, the patroness of our program.
Well, this is
the Madonna of the Kitchen.
Madonna of the Kitchen, and she's beautiful bronze now. She's available in bronze, and you could feel the weight of her. It's like, ooh, it's much heavier than the original one. This is beautiful, available at the EWTN Religious Catalog. And of course, as she always likes to point, she has
beautiful symbols here.
The broom here.
The broom that stands for cleanliness, but also purity as a spiritual sense as well. And then the keys here for the safety of the home, but also the keys of the kingdom of God. And then this kettle here is not only for nourishment of the body, but also nourishment of the soul.
That's right. I always feel better knowing she's here with us. I mean, she's our mother, of course, but it's just so nice to have her with us on set.
I have given it out as gifts for bridal showers, and the brides just love it when it's part of their shower gift, and they say, oh, what a great statue to start our married life off together. And of course, I put her on my table when I have company, and it does keep everyone focused on the meal and nice conversation. You know, the Madonna's watching over them, so they always watch your P's and Q's at the table and be good, behave.
And she's watching over us, and she's watching over our viewers too, because
Amen.
Mary is our mom, right?
Amen.
And listen to your mother, as my mother always said, as in the Blessed Mother.
Else.
Well, we really are tackling some tough topics, but we do this because we're not afraid to discuss these issues on EWTN, and again, from a truly Catholic perspective, because you're going to hear about these issues out in the world, and you're not going to get it from a Catholic perspective, nor will you hear, of course, along with that, quotes from the Catechism, quotes from Scripture, or interviews like the one we just played for you from Dr. Lampert, who also happens to be a deacon serving in the Diocese of Birmingham, who's so concerned about the way the culture is going and the way his own profession, the medical profession, is going in terms of eventually, as he said, they may be forced out of practice if they don't agree to do this type of surgery, the so-called reassignment surgery, maybe even some sort of plastic surgery that's augmenting or changing a person's attributes that would normally be associated with being male or female.
And I'm sure it's creating problems for him among his colleagues, because people may not realize, but everyone in a certain specialty in medicine, they go to conferences and things, and now he's got colleagues at these conferences who are talking about these surgeries they're doing, and he's sitting there saying,
you think about it, and when we were at his session where he was going through the history of all the propaganda with people like Kinsey and others who were pushing this agenda, and some of the problems that occurred with some of the experiments that were made on some
he
children.
He talked about a set of identical twins.
A horrible story.
Horrible
and
stories.
I sat there during that session and I said, dear Lord, what have we come to in this world? And all of this is being pushed as normal, whatever you want to do. And then not only is it being pushed as normal, but people are being forced to do things against their own judgment, against their own faith. And eventually, as he said, he could be forced out of business for not performing this type of surgery.
But how many people actually know this is happening? I mean, how
well,
many people
because
know
it's not discussed, not many.
Discussed. So a question that I had when I'm listening to Dr. Lampert is like, the information he's giving is so compelling. I mean, the danger people are being put through who undergo transgender, this transgender process or this surgery, the danger, 40% suicide rate. And yet, no, we're not really learning about it. I think the natural question is, who is going to share this? And I think it's our viewers that learn this information. We have to evangelize. We've got so many platforms now, social media, when these articles come out, and there's such wonderful Catholic news sources like the National Catholic Register is wonderful. These news come out, they print the articles. Please share the truth, because the reason why all this stuff is being accepted is because there's not a lot of pushback. We keep electing
people are afraid to speak up because
right.
they're worried because there's so many measures that are taken against people. They're called in addition to the name calling and the insults, there's also legal threats and
conservative
discrimination.
Professors are being ousted because of that.
But the sad thing too is many parents, I think, are kind of caving into this idea that if their teenager comes to them and says, I'm a girl and I want to be a boy, well, they kind of go along with it.
Well, the same thing, for example, as we talked about in our previous episodes about the parents of women and men who have same-sex attraction, thinking they automatically have to accept it because it's their son or daughter. But I think the bottom line is that being a Christian, especially in today's society, it's never a cakewalk, right? The Lord doesn't say pick up your bottle of champagne and follow me to the beach. He says take up your cross and follow me. So it's never easy. But the rain falls on the just and the unjust in this world. There's always going to be challenges. But what He does promise us is there is a way that I will walk with you through these different trials.
Teresa, I remember you and I at that dinner meeting that time event, and one of the ladies who was organizing it was just telling us that I guess she was sharing her heart because she was so upset that her niece/nephew, she's her niece, and she said, my brother and sister-in-law have agreed that she just recently had a radical mastectomy. She's changing from being a girl to a boy. And I remember saying to her, and how old is this person? And they said, oh, she's 16. So then they're changing her name legally and doing all this to a boy's name. And I said, and who's paying for that? She goes, oh, their medical insurance, they're using them. I said, and then, but their insurance wasn't covering, they were going to just pay out of pocket. And I said, but why? Why are they allowing her? First of all, a radical mastectomy is a dangerous procedure. God forbid someone had breast cancer. But here, this is a young kid who's doing this because she thinks she needs to be a boy. And I said, shouldn't she be going for counseling? Go see a psychologist? And her response was, they're so afraid she might commit suicide. And I was like, but don't you realize after she does the surgery, she's going to be at a greater risk to commit suicide? The opposite is true. I mean, I couldn't get over, Teresa, that we had to, people, here are people that are Catholics, go to church, and yet they're caving into what they think. Well, this is the path I guess we have to take.
Well, but they haven't heard, as Astrid said, if they're not hearing it.
Right.
And this is normally something that you're not going to talk about in the 10-minute homily because it's impossible to cover. Lay people, that's why we do what we do here at EWTN. If people don't know that this information is available, and we have got to get the word out, and we are really swimming upstream against the culture. Okay, we only have a few minutes left, so we really want to get over our homework, get to our homework, I should say.
Okay. Well, the first, I just want to say that there's the prayer for healing to St. Raphael, who's one of the archangels, the angel of healing. And we'll have this on our website.
That's a beautiful prayer.
Beautiful prayer. And actually, it's not just good for this one thing, because in the prayer, it says, I especially ask for mercy in this present need, and you just name your intention. And it says, may my prayer comes before your glorious presence and find favor, and I ask this through Jesus Christ, etc. I mean, this is for any kind of thing you're struggling with. So it's not just for same-sex attraction or transgender inkling or anything. It could be struggling with alcohol abuse or gambling or any sin. This is a great prayer of healing to St. Raphael. And of course, we've been mentioning on this series, Living the Truth in Love, available at the EWTN Religious Catalog. great pastoral approaches for people suffering with same-sex attraction. A lot of great essays in here, and it was edited by Janet Smith and Father Paul.
And Janet Smith, yeah, and Father Paul Chek is phenomenal. He's a chaplain for Courage, and he is just such a powerful witness. And really, I love what he says about the fact that all the problems that many of the problems that we're having as a result of the sexual revolution have to do with the case of exactly what the title of this program is, a mistaken identity, because we don't know who we are, made in the image and likeness of God, and we don't know the Lord. If we knew Him and we knew how we were designed so beautifully, everything would fall into place.
That's right.
But we have to have that will to submit, and that's the bottom line. And again, that is a great book. It's got great resources in there, and all of the essays that were given at that conference are in that book. And we are talking about these sensitive topics because we want you to be armed with the information. We want you to be able to help maybe someone in your own family or maybe someone in your community. And in addition to that particular book and the prayer that we mentioned, we should also remind folks that and we should put this on our website. I just thought of it, just popped into my head. It must have been the Holy Spirit. Dr. Jennifer Robeck Morse's website, the Ruth Institute, because she is addressing all of these different issues.
Yes.
In terms of the sexual revolution, because her whole mindset is that we're in this mess because of the sexual revolution.
That's
and
right.
the victims, and she has a whole segment on her website, the victims of the sexual revolution.
Healing the victims of the sexual revolution.
And look at what he said in terms of the high suicide rate, the profound interior wound, you know, that people have with this disorder. So again, it's just incredible to make sure that we have these really good resources. And so just pay attention to our website, which is CatholicViewForWomen.com. We're very passionate about these topics because we want you to have the information. So CatholicViewForWomen.com. And again, read Living the Truth in Love by Dr. Janet Smith and Father Paul Chek, which is available through Ignatius Press. And also to pray this beautiful healing prayer of St. Raphael, the angel of healing. Well, wow. I wish we had more time. We only have about 60 seconds left. Any final thoughts before we wrap up?
Well, no, that just to be informed and continue to go to our website, thecatholicviewforwomen.com, sign up for our e-letter, which we send every month. And if you have, you know, things to tell us about what you would like topics to cover for next season.
Yes.
Because, you know, this series is going to air, but then we'll be in the midst of already taping and planning the next one. So we kind of need to hear from our viewers what other topics they want us to cover.
Right. All right. Well, thank you for watching. Again, you've been watching The Catholic View for Women. TheCatholicViewForWomen.com is our website. And we'll see you next time on The Catholic View. Stay tuned.
Well, friends, thank you for watching Priests for Life TV. I hope you've enjoyed this particular broadcast segment. We will be increasing the length of time of these broadcast segments until eventually we're bringing you 24 hours a day of pro-life information and education. So please do spread the word about this new pro-life internet channel so that we can get as many others as possible to gain the knowledge and inspiration they need to be part of the battle to end abortion. Well, friends, in order to do this work, we do rely on you for our support. So can I please also ask that you send us a donation? Go to prolifedonation.org in order to give a gift to Priests for Life today so that we can continue to be out on the road, spreading the pro-life message, activating the churches, lobbying for pro-life legislation, electing pro-life candidates, closing abortion mills, and doing the work that we all need to do to protect these babies. prolifedonation.org. We rely entirely on your support. We don't get funding from the Vatican or from dioceses, but from people like you all over the country and around the world. Please make a donation today, because every bit of that gift will be used to spread this pro-life message and to save these babies. prolifedonation.org. Thank you, my friends, for your support. This is Father Frank Pavone of Priests for Life.